What is going on, Fever Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of the For Focus podcast. I'm Alex Golden.
And I'm Casey Johnson.
And the Indiana Fever, they get their first home victory of the season on Sunday night, taking down the Seattle Storm 89-78 behind a terrific performance, really, from Caitlin Clark, 21 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. And Casey, before we jump into this game, I'm going to come up with a hot take to start it off.
Oh, boy.
I think we are on the beginning. We are at the beginning stages of the Caitlin Clark MVP season.
Wow.
I'm there already.
Listen, here's the thing. It's kind of hard to disagree with. I think that while that take is hot, although, most hot food that is in your mouth, you spit it out and you couldn't seem to. You have such a good point in that Caitlin Clark has really dialed up her level of play in particularly the last couple of games to the point where you have to start thinking records. You have to start thinking, I'll put it this way. If Caitlin Clark keeps up this pace, it'll be really difficult to not give her the MVP. And if she didn't win the MVP, if she keeps it up at this pace, it will only because an Asia, a Brianna Stewart, or somebody like that really takes off and just makes a case that is undeniable with absolute dominance.
I mean, honestly, like when you watch her play, like she's just getting more and more comfortable out there on the court every single game after coming back from this injury. And we're seeing her finish through contact. The step back three is slowly but surely coming. The logo three she hit. I mean, I'm just telling you, like when I watch her play, like, yes, the turnovers are still a little too high for me. Had 5 in this game, but she had 2 blocks and she went 9 of 9 from the free throw line. I mean, she's just constantly getting to the free throw line and drawing contact by being such a force downhill. And I love that about her game. I mean, I love that she's flexing and looking at the crowd and things like that. I mean, this is exactly what we want to see. And like, I know the 3-point shooting, it was 2 for 4 this game. So really, really positive for her, but it's just going to keep getting better and better. But I'm so tired already of the discourse around Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White, and now Breon January is getting involved in all this stuff. They're like, oh, Caitlin Clark doesn't like her assistant coach, that's the defensive coach, and oh, look at this interaction. Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf are watching this all take place between Stephanie and Caitlin. I'm like, people have too much time on their hands to sleuth through all of the video footage to like try to come up with some kind of narrative that's not even there. And the biggest thing they're missing to me is just how much of a competitor Caitlin Clark is, because she acts this way where she like gives like these, faces where she's just disgusted with officials, with teammates, with coaches. This is just who she is. She's just an emotional player that wears her emotions. She can't hide them at all, right? She wears them on her sleeves. And I think she plays her game that way. So I'm really excited to kind of just continue seeing her grow into this new era of Caitlin Clark, because the rookie season was great. Last year, injury sucked. Third year, I'm telling you, it's MVP time for Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that you note this non-narrative that's spread by so many people. And what I generally find is that a lot of people who spread those sort of narratives, at least that willingly, right? There are certain times when it's very much time to spread that kind of a narrative, but people who spread it so readily and are like looking for, obviously you can't do these things and actually have a good relationship. A lot of those people have just never been in a competitive environment where everybody is pushing each other to succeed, because it is not always friendly. And nay, it should not always be friendly. The first thing that I think about in that situation, ironically, it's 2 video games that my wife and I played. One of them is called It Takes Two, and one of them is called Split Fiction. They're by the same developer, and essentially, it is a co-op story. You must do it with 2 people, and in those levels, each one of you is equally important. This
Mm,
isn't a situation like one of the Lego games where you just, give the controller to the other person and then kind of drag them along with you. And let me tell you what, both people will have to do legitimately challenging things, and you'll find out real quick how strong your marriage is by
I mean,
playing a game like that. Because after like 5 times of just jump, just go there, just do it, you are going to realize exactly where Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White are some of the time. They could be screaming at each other on the sideline, and I wouldn't be worried about it because they have an understanding. They have a rapport. They have a love for one another, and they understand what it takes to unlock the best in one another because you're a player and your coach, that is as much of a partnership as it is the coach to the front office or the coach even to some of the assistant coaches. And you have to be constantly pushing each other to be great. And that is not going to happen without passion. And as a result, you're going to get some fiery moments. You're going to get stuff like that on the sideline. And guess what? At the end of the day, they're like, okay, bye. Love you. See you tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just like having a sister almost, right? Like, or a brother, right? Someone that you're really close with and a sibling. It's not always gonna be rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes you're gonna have that mud fight. Sometimes you're gonna have that fist fight. And look, I mean, every time I hear anything, like there was a question I think James Boyd asked after the game about the way Caitlin played, and what did Stephanie say? She kind of like turned it into like a team narrative response, which is very generic coach speak whenever you're asking about an individual player. Because look, the coach's job is to manage all 12 egos. They're not just sitting here, hey, we got to go pander to Caitlin every time we go to the podium. No, it's like, I've got a lot of other women on this team that I've got to make sure that they realize they're just as important to the success of our team as Caitlin Clark. And look, we know Caitlin Clark has a higher degree of importance to this team. We're not denying that. But what Raven Johnson came in and did in 17 minutes was not scoring any points, but really impacting the game in other ways, like a great block that she had, some good rebounding. Like, this is like little things that you're wanting to build for this whole team as a collective. And I think sometimes fans of players and fans of superstars don't know how to respond to a
Mhm.
coach that is trying to integrate this level of superstar. And like, we haven't seen this level of superstar in the W ever in terms of the fan base. And if you go to the NBA side of things, LeBron, Michael Jordan, like, yes, you have to make sure that those stars realize how special they are, but you also have to realize that as a coach, your job is to talk about the team and not just one specific player. And so, speaking of the team, I thought, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought this was one of the best games we've seen from Sophie Cunningham in quite a while. I thought she really shot the ball well, played with a lot of confidence, and she even had a block where she kind of got a little excited about it and she was dancing a little bit. So I'm just happy to see Sophie playing well, and she gets a little bit more extended playing time with Aliyah Boston out with the injury.
Yeah, Sophie's reaction to that block was absolutely beautiful, and then her reaction furthermore on Twitter was beautiful because everybody was clowning her for doing it, and she said, "Listen, the last time I blocked somebody, it was my 2-year-old niece. Let me live."
Let me
But
live.
yeah, you mentioned, the role players and the people who are not the superstar are so important. It reminds me of an argument that I heard one time that the MVP of the Cavs teams with, LeBron, was actually Kevin Love, and he deserved the MVP more than LeBron did because their argument for that was, and they didn't really mean it, but it was just a different way of thinking about it. You are going to get what you're going to get from LeBron. You're probably going to get 30, 10, and 8 just about every single night from LeBron at that stage of his career. Whether or not the Cleveland Cavaliers won the game depended on how Kevin Love did, right? He was the linchpin. In a way, he affected winning more than the baseline standard greatest we've ever seen success from LeBron James. And Sophie Cunningham is one of those impact players. There are a lot of people who had an impact on this game, but Sophie was one of those who just lit it up immediately when she came onto the court, hit more than half of her shots, wasn't shooting the best from 3, but sank 6 free throws and kept the energy up even as the Storm sort of tried to push a little bit late.
Yeah, and honestly, the three-point shooting was not as a strength of either the Storm or the Fever, as the Storm shot 26% from 3 and the Fever shot 24%. But this is a game where Indiana, which we talked about it, I briefly mentioned that actually Aliyah Boston didn't play in this game, but the Fever dominate the points in the paint. 50-30, and it's not very often where you look at the game against Washington, you saw how big Washington was with their size, and then you look at Seattle, and they just didn't have that same level of interior presence as Washington did, and the Fever made them pay. I mean, the 15-0 run the Fever got off to in the first quarter was really the separation that they needed in this game, and the Storm never were really able to catch up. They made their little runs here and there, but it never felt like they were just going to come back and take this game or make it really more of a game than it needed to be. And I just thought you saw the connection between Monique Billings and Caitlin Clark once again on display. And then Maisha Allen, like the way she's played the last 2 games has just been really, really fun to watch. I mean, she's really just finding her niche in this group. And so I just, the fast break points favoring the Fever, like everything was just pointing to the Fever, 22 assists to 17. Now where they got to be a little bit was the steals and the blocks. The stocks were 17-13 here, or excuse me, 17-11 in the stat sheet. But overall, the Fever led for 95% of the game. So the largest lead they had was 20, and the largest lead the Storm had was 1 point. So I never felt worried about this game, and it got away late. Third quarter was really good for the Fever as well, winning that one by 8 points after already having a pretty big lead. So the fourth quarter didn't feel as important, and that's why you see Caitlin Clark pretty much do all her damage in 3 quarters because she only played 24 minutes.
Yeah, and, you mentioned the absolute dominance on the inside by the Indiana Fever. It's at least worth noting that if they did not dominate on the inside in this game, then you were going to have a problem. With the 6'6" Titan, Dominique Malonga being in concussion protocol, with their first round draft pick, Awafam, not even being in the United States yet, as she just won a title over in Germany, and also forward Katie Lou Samuelson, former Fever player and noted member of the Caitlin Clark de-escalation committee, was also not playing in this game as she's not quite yet back from injury. So they were really crippled in the front court. But what that ended up leading to was so much more spacing, and I'm not talking about spacing in terms of a three-point shot all the time. I'm talking about spacing in terms of literally space to move, space for that Fever offense to be fluid throughout the entire court, and this was the perfect game. You could tell they came in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They came in thinking that they should have won that game against the Mystics, thinking we're definitely not a 1-2 team, and it's time to put our foot on the gas pedal. And what a perfect circumstance to get your get right game going into your first game against a brand new team.
Yeah, they're totally new. I mean, they're definitely in the middle of this rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, as they kind of reshape their roster moving forward. But I have to ask you this because I thought it was interesting. We did see a starting lineup change. For the first time, Lexi Hall is now back in the starting 5. And of course, Maisha Allen got the start for Aliyah Boston. This was the group that really got the Fever back into it against the Mystics. Maybe aside from Kelsey Mitchell was partially in there, partially wasn't in there. And I really like that 5 together. I think you really see the importance of the defense with Lexi, Monique, and Maisha together. I like that trio out there with Kelsey and Caitlin. And I think that we're starting to see, I think Kelsey's probably a little bit ahead of Caitlin on the defensive side of things right now, but I think we're starting to see them both take more pride in it. And I love that Caitlin's talking about we got to get better on defense because this team is offensively gifted. We know that. I mean, really, from like 1 through 10 on this roster, there's a lot of offensive firepower, maybe even 1 through 12. But I think the way that they're trying to hone in on defense, and Pat Boylan was on the radio or the TV call with Bria, and I loved that. I love when they were talking about Michaela Timpson and the role that she played in this game because once again, just active, and I love how she's just kind of figured things out. And Michaela was a second round pick, right?
I believe so, yes. They did not
Okay.
have their first round pick.
Yeah, so, I mean, for a second round pick in the WNBA in year 2 to have this much of a role already, I think it says a lot about the talent that she has, and, I mean, I don't know if she's ever gonna do it, but I feel like there's a couple times where I was just waiting for her to dunk the basketball. I mean, that's how athletic she feels.
I've been very, very, very insistent that I think Michaela Timpson will dunk at some point in her career, and actually, I do think that probably the Fever have been urging her to dunk. I don't wanna, like, surmise anything, or I don't wanna break news here, but, like, I don't remember which game it was, but there was a breakout, I think it was the opening day, where Michaela Timpson had wide open court in front of her, nothing in front of her, and she laid it up, and Caitlin was on the bench, and there was a timeout called after that, and Caitlin comes off of the bench just with a giant thumbs down
You're onto
toward
something.
Michaela Timpson, and it reminds me so much of when, like, TJ McConnell gets a breakaway and Obi and Tyrese clown him for not dunking it, even though he obviously can. I think Michaela Timpson is a dunker, and we're just waiting to see it.
It's gonna be interesting because I think it was Sophie that said before the season that Monique Billings is someone that she expects to dunk this year. So,
Yeah.
could we see a battle of, like, a Tyrese Halliburton versus Buddy Hield, a dunk off between
Yes.
Monique and
Yes.
Michaela? I want it. I want it. I'm here for it. So, this was a really get-right game, I think, because
Yes.
you cannot lose another home game, especially to an inferior opponent, even without Aliyah Boston. But I will say we haven't touched on Kelsey Mitchell at all in this game, but I thought a much better performance offensively from her than what we saw previously against the Mystics. She just didn't seem like she was herself that game, like, especially missing 2 clutch free throws back to back. That is not the Kelsey Mitchell that we all love and know. But in this game, 17 points on 18 shots. I mean, it's not a great efficiency number, just 1 of 5 from 3, but she was a plus 21 in the game, and I think that matters, especially when you win a game by 11 points. She clearly was a part of all of those big runs the Fever had, and that's just the kind of player she is. She just constantly finds ways to impact the game, whether the box score is really showing much of it, because I can look at it and say, a little underwhelming. But I think overall, when I watched the game, it felt like she was out there having a pretty positive impact.
Gravity. Gravity, 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 gravity. It's the one thing that actually, Amazon Prime has come up with a metric to track gravity. I was watching a video about it the other day. Don't understand anything about how they do it, but the point is gravity is something that needs to be sort of studied a little bit more in this world of advanced metrics that we live in, because Kelsey Mitchell, and I'll use the same, metaphor for her that I used, for Caitlin on one of our prior episodes. If you put a mannequin with Kelsey Mitchell's uniform out there and it didn't do anything other than be a scarecrow, it would open up the offense, just because guess what? If Kelsey Mitchell is 0 for 10 from 3-point in this game, and then you pass the ball to her, you're guarding her at the three-point line because she's one of the most gifted scorers on the planet. And so even on a day when, oh my god, only 17 points, that's not what we expect from Kelsey, but it is a sort of a down performance from her, but the way that she is able to affect the game just by being out there and giving Maisha and Lexi and Monique and Caitlin more room to work, and especially giving the 3 of them room to get Caitlin open, those are the things that are so important. It's why the 1-2 punch of Clark and Mitchell is so potent.
They are a great duo. I mean, my goodness, they are unbelievable, and you're not going to find a better guard duo. We said that the last time against the Mystics, like, you're not going to find a better guard duo than those two. And so now it's just a matter of getting all the pieces to fit together still, and they have a chance to do that tomorrow night on USA Network. They will be hosting the Portland Fire, the new expansion team that is 2-2, and Bridget Carlton is, a big player for them at 17 points a game. And honestly, this is going to be, I think it's going to be tougher than maybe some Fever fans think, just because Portland just coming off a very, very emotional win, and I think now go out there and, try to get a little bit of a home winning streak going because I think this is the last game of the homestand for the Fever too.
It is not the last game of the homestand. They are home again on Friday, and
Oh.
then they are going to be
Oh,
headed back
Valkyrie.
on the
Then
road.
they go
Yep,
out to play the Valkyrie game.
correct,
That's right,
correct.
okay. Yeah.
But I believe Portland might be the hottest 2-2 team in the W, right now. Both of their losses
Is it
have
because
been
they're the Fire?
well, I'm pretty
It's
good at
alright.
this, man. No, but both of their losses have been somewhat blowouts, but both of the games that they won have been in absolute stunner fashion.
Yep.
And I mean, Sarah Ashley Barker is like NBA Jam smoking hot on fire right now in late game situations. One of the loudest crowd reactions I have ever heard, to the point where it was messing up like some of the mics in on the broadcast when she hit that game winner in their first win. This is a team that's very motivated right now, and they have nothing to lose, everything to gain. Every time that they step out on the court, they're trying to create culture. They're trying to create some sort of through line of the way that we as the Portland Fire are going to play basketball. I wouldn't overlook this one. I would say the number one key to a Fever win here is you just have to not let it get close at the end, because frankly, for these 2-2 teams, the one through line is both of the close games the Fever have lost, and both of the close games the Portland Fire have won.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And if you look at Portland's schedule, they had their first 4 games at home. They have not played on the road yet. So this is their first of a 3-game road trip where they'll take on Indiana, Toronto, and New York before heading back home for 3 more games where the Fever will be a part of that. But yeah, this is obviously a very fresh Portland Fire team that they're playing with house money, like you said. I think it's a great point. They have nothing to lose at this point. They are playing loose, and they're just trying to establish their culture and establish their, chemistry. But when you beat the New York Liberty by 2 and you get your
Mhm.
first home win, like, that's pretty impressive, and then to go back and beat Connecticut by 1, yeah, that's tough, and you're right. The Fever have not been great in the clutch so far this season, so it is a very interesting storyline to follow, and I'll just put it this way. I don't know much about the Portland Fire because we're still learning this team as they have just been assembled. So it's going to be tough, but they do force a lot of turnovers with their aggressive defense, and I think that's the key. They forced 18 turnovers in their previous victory, so you got to keep an eye on that. And we just talked about how Caitlin has been pretty high in turnovers, so hopefully the last day or so they've been really focusing and honing in on trying to just keep those passes maybe a little bit crisper and not throwing out outlet passes to Demiris Dantas, who can't really run as fast as she used to be able to. So I just secure the basketball, play Fever style basketball, and let Caitlin keep cooking, because if her and Kelsey do their thing, Aliyah get her reintegrated back into the fold, I feel pretty confident the Fever should win this game.
Alex, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And the thing that people don't talk about when they say that is that that journey of 1,000 miles also includes step number 2, step number 3, step number 4, step number 5. Having 4 games at home early in the season like this for a Fever team that's still learning each other and trying to figure things out, if we can just sleep in our own beds for a week, drive our own cars for a week, practice in our own practice facility for a week. If they are able to win both of these last games before they go back out onto the road, that could be maybe the thing that we are coming back to later in the year when the Fever are a juggernaut. And we could be saying, it was really that homestand, that 4-game homestand that allowed them to get their sea legs, get their feet under them, and really learn each other, learn the system even better, and figure out what winning Fever basketball in the 2026 season looks like. And I absolutely think that that's on the table. People like to say, "Oh, they're 2-2 right now." Well, 42-2 is still on the table. Not to say that like that's going to happen by any stretch of the imagination, but in the grand scheme of things, what did we talk about so much before the start? What have they been preaching before the start of the season? Hey, all of the pressure is put on those opening couple of games, but they are just a couple of games
Yeah.
in a long season. This Fever team still has a lot of winning to do, and the mission starts now.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday night, I will say thank you for listening to it early. If you wait till Wednesday to listen to this, you probably have already listened to Caitlin Clark on the Aliyah Boston podcast. So, what is the name of the Aliyah Boston Candace
Post
Parker
move.
post moves? Okay,
Yeah,
so I know Caitlin's going to be on that, and they are debuting that tomorrow, I believe, early. So
I believe so, yes.
yeah, so hey, that's a great way to get some Fever content in. Fever Focus podcast, post moves with Aaliyah and Caitlin, and then cap it all off with some fire versus Fever. I mean, the two hottest teams in the WNBA by team name alone, and then me and Casey will be back to recap that game. So, looking forward to that. So, Fever fans, I guess if you have anything you would like me and Casey to touch on, let us know in the comment section below or comment on social media wherever you see this post. But any final words, Casey, before we sign off here?
I mean, the Sun, Mercury, there's a lot of hot team names,
Yeah, I mean that's
actually.
fair. But they're not playing in Indiana.
No, I mean, no, that's totally fair, but you said the 2 hottest teams, and I would be interested to do like, a power ranking
Let's do that for the
of
next episode. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's come back tomorrow and do it tomorrow. I'm fine with that. Let's power rank the hottest teams by team name in the WNBA top 15. What'll be the
that
coldest? The Wings,
yeah, the
the Dream,
Lynx is kind of a
the who?
the Lynx.
The Lynx.
Maybe
Yeah,
the Sky, it's really cold up there.
it could be kind of hot though.
Well, not when you get up there.
In the sky? I don't know. We're saving this for tomorrow. What are we doing? This is just like a precursor to like what is coming tomorrow. Um,
Don't
but I
say
don't.
that, they might not listen.
This will be an end of podcast discussion. We will recap the game first, ladies and gentlemen. So if you made it this far anyway, we appreciate you all. So this has been another episode here of the Fever Focus. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And Casey, if you're hoping the Fever get their third victory of the season tomorrow, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go Fever.